I haven't posted a YouTube video in about 2 years. Sorry about that. The reason I haven't posted is, well, a lot's happened in the world, hasn't it, in the last couple of years, certainly the last 18 months. And it's given me a time, like all of us, to take stock of a much longer period of time, the last 10 plus years that I've been doing photography seriously. Take a bit of a step back and think, where has that journey taken me? Where have I got to? And how do I go forward? And I think it's true to say that even without the pandemic, I was possibly already reaching a point where I knew certain things weren't right, or certain things were becoming more challenging and more difficult. So in a way, COVID and lockdown and the inability to do so much photography actually gave me quite a useful stop point to have a very good think over a long period of time about what I really wanted to do, what I had been doing, and how to go forward, how to get out of a bit of a photographic wilderness that I found myself in. So this video is a little bit of a state of the nation. I don't want it to be a long rambling video. I want to tell you guys what I've learned for myself, and I really hope that it resonates with you, because I think a lot of our challenges are similar. I think there's a lot of us that find ourselves in the same place. So for some context, let me quickly recap some key points over the period of maybe 10 years even that ran up to the pandemic, which is really the period where I grew as a photographer. I took it a lot more seriously, and I started to consider myself as a professional photographer. I think there's almost a generation of photographers that went through a very similar experience to the one that I went through. And that really came about because of two things. It came about firstly because there was a democratization of photography that was technology driven in that period, say from about 2008 maybe up to 2018-19. First of all, that was, I think, about photographic gear, that there was a kind of a period where DSLRs became mainstream, and in general there was a quality gap that existed between the professional and the amateur that got closed in that period. Effectively, you didn't have to have quite so much skill as you perhaps did before that in the old days, in the film days, and that technology made us all suddenly better photographers, and it made us all believe that we could do it. The second thing that happened was that the internet came along and had its own revolution and closed what I would call not so much a quality gap but an opportunity gap. Because before that, if you wanted to be successful, you had to get past a whole series of human photographic industry gatekeepers. If you wanted to join a stock library, somebody had to let you in. If you wanted to publish a book, you had to convince a publisher that your work was good enough. The internet came along, democratized all that. It meant that we could self-publish books. It meant that stock libraries were just online things that you could just upload images to, and they were either accepted or they weren't. And half the time it wasn't even a human looking at that, it was just a machine deciding whether your images were high quality enough, and if so, in you came. So at the same time as all that was happening, there are also a lot less opportunities to be an actual employed professional photographer, to serve an apprenticeship, if you like, to hone your craft in that way. So what happened was, we've had a period of time where we've had the rise of the pro-am or the semi-professional photographer, and that's what I would consider myself. We are people who have not necessarily had formal education. We have not been employed as photographers. We are self-taught. We've often come, like myself, out of other creative industries. There are an awful lot of people who are very talented, very serious pro-am, semi-pro photographers who are either graphic designers or work in digital or come from an IT background. People who have that sort of sensibility and realise that actually photography could become quite a decent side hustle, something that perhaps before that was really very much just a hobby. Suddenly there was all sorts of potential to make what is an expensive hobby actually start paying for itself. The question I would put to you, that I have put to myself many times over the last few years, is, were we fooling ourselves? Were we developing delusions of grandeur? Were we thinking we were better than we weren't because a lot of us did start to make some money? I don't know, I think that's a distinct possibility. And so I think where I have arrived at with the pandemic and the whole stop point that has created is really a sort of a sense of humility, that I need to go back and rediscover, if I am going to be a successful photographer, what that means. What is it that is unique about me? What is it that is unique about the images that I make, such that I actually serve a valuable purpose in the photographic world? I need to also talk about social media as well, because I think that is the other thing that has allowed a lot of us to learn that, again, those of us that weren't qualified or employed as photographers, we have self-learned largely from the internet. But we now live in the world of an increasingly algorithmic internet, and I see on social media all the time a lot of people waking up to the fact that it hasn't done us a power of good, that it is starting to become repetitious. We're all starting to follow each other. Trends are now becoming ever sort of narrower. Creativity and wider expression is becoming less and less. Or is it becoming less and less, or are we just seeing less of it because the algorithms don't show us that stuff? The algorithms just show us an ever narrowing view of what is popular photography. I personally think there's quite a lot of truth in that. So we've had this revolution, and into that opportunity and into that ability to make quality images, what have we done? We, the photographic community, have poured millions and millions of images. And now we're at a point where everybody says, oh well, you know, social media is dead because I can't get that many followers, and stock photography is dead because I can't make that many sales, and photo workshops are dead because there's too many people offering them. And I think that's a point we've all arrived at. It's got harder, and so we're all bemoaning that fact and we're all looking for someone to blame. I'm a pretty harsh self-critic, and I tend to blame myself if I'm not being as successful as I think I should be. And what I've worked out during the pandemic is that I need to be more valuable as a photographer if I am going to succeed. So let's bring things up to date a little bit. In short, I got to the point of about March 2020. I was very lucky. I got a fantastic photo trip away to the Philippines just before the pandemic broke. I came back, lockdown 1 happened in the UK, and I didn't pick up a camera for about 9 months. Concerns about health, concerns about family, concerns about money, concerns about the state of the world just killed my creative mojo. I couldn't see a reason to make images. It wasn't bringing me any joy, it wasn't bringing me any success. I just didn't think there was anything I just couldn't see a reason. Cut to now, September of 2021, and I feel a lot different to how I did in March 2020. I have rediscovered a fighting spirit, and a couple of things have happened to make me feel different. The first is actually that I moved house, and I've moved away from an area where I used to live, the New Forest in the south of the UK, which is a superb photography location and very, very popular. I've come to an area that's a lot quieter. It's still actually very beautiful. It's not very far away, but it has allowed me to feel that the images that I have made since I moved house are fresher. They are images that I can put out there, and you know what? There aren't 10 images just like mine popping up on social media every day. So I kind of feel like I've found a niche. And it's reminded me that that is what is important, to have your own space, have your own niche, your own style, whatever it is, but have your area and really focus on being the best you can be in that regard. So that's been a bit of a revelation to me, to find my own niche and really concentrate on it. And of course, I haven't been able to travel. If I had, I probably would have perhaps carried on making images that other people were making, and I wouldn't have found this determination to be myself more and to create something that was more unique. Sorry, more unique, not a phrase. The other thing that I've done is I've asked myself a very serious question about what I am really good at and what kind of photographer I am. Because in truth, I do not consider myself an artist. I consider myself far closer to a photojournalist. I'm someone who likes creating series of images that tell stories, not single images that are beautifully artistic. So I realised that about myself and thought, okay, if that's what you are, then what should the output of that be? You know, you're not someone who's going to sell artistic prints. You are someone who should be concentrating on working with magazines or working with different organisations to help them tell their stories. That's the more photojournalistic photographer that I am. And so I need to concentrate on that and go after that sort of work, rather than trying to be a bit of a sort of all things to all people type of photographer. I also need to crucially work with other people, because the other thing I think a lot of us do, I think is possibly one of the biggest failings of the semi-pro photographer, is we spend too much time shooting just to please ourselves. I'm lucky in that I also run a communications business, and I do photography as part of that, and that is all commission photography. So I spend a good part of my time going out and shooting stuff that frankly I have absolutely no interest in whatsoever, other than I have an interest in making it as interesting as it can be. But I go out and I shoot corporate events, I shoot in people's offices and stuff like that, and that's, you know, there is that's good, it pays the bills, but it's reminded me that I don't always have to find the thing that I'm doing in itself terribly interesting in order to be a good storyteller. So how can I take that aesthetic and apply that to the work that I actually love to do, which is my wildlife and my landscape and my travel photography? How can I be more, if you like, sort of customer oriented or audience focused, saying to myself, what do people want to see rather than just what do I want to shoot? I think that is a mindset change that is very important to how I'm going to go forward. I also think a lot of us, and it's something I'm particularly guilty of myself, I think we spend too much time on our own. I think you know, a lot of us do outdoor photography because we're trying to escape from the rat race and the rest of the world, but I am very interested in collaboration now, that is going to be something that is going to be at the forefront of what I do, whether that's with working with other photographers or just working with other people who have similar interests to me, who might need some photographic services or skills as part of what they're doing. So let's wrap this video up on a hopeful note. I have some new projects to work on which at least have given me a mission, a sense that there is something valuable and worthwhile to be spending my time on. There's a lot of risk. I don't know if these projects are going to work out. I don't know if they're going to earn me my fortune. I don't even know if they're going to earn me anything yet. But there are at least concrete plans that make sense to me behind them. And that's really the important thing, I think, is that I have managed to get myself out of a period of diminishing returns, where expecting to keep doing the same old things and for them to continue to work, that has ended. And I've realised I need to relook at things, create new projects, create new ways of working, collaborate better, collaborate differently, and there is hope in the future. So I hope this video hasn't been too much of a ramble. It feels like it might have been a little bit like that, but I'll wrap it up there. Thank you for watching. Please let me know your feedback on this. If you would like to hear more of these discussion type videos, then do let me know. I think I like to put the honesty out there, rather than just make videos of me wandering about going, oh, look at me taking some photos. I'm not very good at making them. A lot of other people are making those types of videos, and I think they themselves have become an oversaturated thing. So again, even this video is my attempt to try and do something a little bit different, inject a bit of more direct honesty into it, and hopefully make videos that actually leave people going away thinking about, okay, you know, how can I apply some of this stuff to my situation? So please do reach out. I'm on Twitter at Earth_stories, and and I genuinely do chat to people every day, and I have some fascinating conversations with some very, very talented photographers on there. So please do come join in that conversation. In the meantime, all I shall say is take care, go safe.